My husband thought I'd never discover his secret bank account, so I used it to end the marriage on my terms. I was paying bills at the kitchen table that night, the house quiet except for the hum of the old fridge. My eyes were tired, my back stiff, but I kept working through the stack. Then a new email popped up on my screen. A bank name I had never seen before. I frowned, clicked it open, and a statement filled the screen. It carried my husband Mark's name. Balance, $2.8 million. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. My hands shook so badly, I had to set the mouse down. I was 58 years old, married for 32 years, and I thought we shared everything. But that number glowed like a warning sign. Hidden money meant hidden life. Hidden life meant hidden truth. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I stared at that balance again. Before I could think, one sharp thought cut through everything. He never meant for me to find this. Want more stories like this? Hit subscribe for more shocking true revenge tales. By morning, Mark was cheerful, humming while he brewed my coffee. He kissed my cheek like always, warm and sweet, the perfect husband everyone admired. But now, I watched him like a stranger wearing my husband's skin. His smile felt false. His laugh sounded rehearsed. Every gentle touch made me wonder how long he'd been lying. He slid my mug across the counter and said, "Don't worry about bills this month, honey. I've got everything under control." Those words made heat crawl up my neck. Under control. Yes, he believed that. He believed I was still the woman who trusted him with closed eyes. The woman who never questioned. But that email stayed burned in my mind. He had hidden millions while telling me we needed to budget better. I nodded and thanked him, pretending nothing was wrong. He thought he was fooling me. He had no idea I had already stepped off the script and into the truth. As I cleaned the living room that afternoon, memories kept hitting me like small stones. 32 years of marriage. I met Mark when I was 26, working 2 jobs to help him start his little repair business. He always said, "We're building a future together." Back then, that line made me proud. I believed we were a team. I worked late nights, paid bills, picked up extra shifts while he built the business. He said once the company grew, we'd share everything. That promise kept me going. But now I saw it differently. He meant I should share what I earned while he hid what he got. I remembered asking him once if we should open a retirement fund together. He laughed and said, "You worry too much, Liz. I'll take care of us." For years, I thought that was love. Now, standing there with dust on my hands, I realized it might have been the first warning sign I ignored. That evening, I sat at the dining table sorting old bills when I asked casually, "Mark, did you move some money from our savings?" He didn't even look up from the newspaper. "Liz, you worry too much about money. That's my job." My stomach twisted so hard I felt dizzy. His tone was gentle, almost teasing, but the words were a door slamming shut. He had always brushed me off like that, turning my questions into silly concerns. Gaslighting wrapped in kindness. I pushed again. "I just noticed the balance looked different," he sighed loudly. "You're imagining things again. Leave the finances to me." Imagining. Again. He had used that line for years, and I swallowed it every time. But not tonight. Tonight it made something spark inside me. He stood up, kissed my forehead, and said, "Relax. Everything is fine." It wasn't fine. He just didn't know I already had proof that everything was very, very wrong. The next morning, after he left for work, I went to the garage to look for an old warranty paper. While moving boxes, a folded receipt slipped from the glove compartment of his truck. The logo made my breath freeze. The same strange bank from the email. My pulse thumped against my ribs. I unfolded the paper carefully. It showed a deposit into that secret account, dated 7 years ago. 7 years. He had been hiding money for at least that long. I sank onto the step, gripping the receipt. I remembered that year clearly. Mark had told me business was slow. He said we needed to tighten expenses. I had canceled my gym membership, cut coupons, even refused a vacation. And he deposited thousands behind my back. That was when the truth settled fully into my chest. This wasn't a mistake. Not a one-time thing. He had built a second life while pretending to struggle with me. And now I knew where to start digging. That night at dinner, Mark poured us both wine and talked about work like nothing in the world was wrong. He bragged about a new backup plan he had been putting together, saying, "You never know when things might not work out. A man needs options." He said it with a laugh, but something in his eyes looked sharper, colder. I held my fork still, my smile tight. "A backup plan is smart," I said softly. He didn't know I already knew about his real backup plan, the one hiding millions he never meant to share. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Don't worry, Liz. You'll always be taken care of." Those words rolled over me like poison. He wasn't taking care of me. He was preparing to leave me behind. While he talked about future plans, I studied his face, memorizing every lie. He thought he was safe. He thought I was blind. But I was already plotting my next move. The next afternoon, I met my friend Carla for coffee. She worked as a paralegal and had dealt with more divorces than anyone I knew. I told her, in careful pieces, that I had found a hidden account. Her eyebrows shot up. "Liz's secret accounts during a marriage? That's fraud if he tries to hide it in a divorce."
Fraud.
The word felt powerful in my chest. I leaned in. "What happens if the wife finds proof?" Carla lowered her voice. "Then the wife holds all the cards." My heart beat faster. "All the cards," she continued. "If you ever plan to leave, you'd have the advantage. Judges do not like hidden money." I whispered, "Perfect." Carla's eyes widened, realizing what that meant. "Liz, be careful." I nodded, but inside me, something strong and quiet rose. For years I had felt small. Now, for the first time in a long time, I felt something else, power. The following week, I hired a financial investigator. His name was Miles, a thin man with sharp glasses and a sharper mind. I told him everything about the email, the receipt, the strange bank. He nodded calmly and said, "Men hiding money leave footprints. I'll find them." And he did. Within days, he uncovered more accounts, investment portfolios, offshore deposits, even crypto wallets. All under Mark's name. All hidden during our marriage. He spread the papers across my kitchen table. "This isn't small," he said. "He's been planning an exit for years." I stared at the piles of documents. Each sheet felt like a slap. The man I trusted most had been building a life without me while smiling across the breakfast table. "How much total?" I asked. Miles tapped a calculator. "Counting everything, nearly 4 million. 4 million. I felt heat in my chest, not sadness anymore.
No.
It was something much colder. And it felt steady. But the worst part came later. Miles called one evening, clearing his throat before speaking. "Liz, the spending pattern on one of the accounts is unusual. Luxury jewelry, hotel stays, flights." "For Mark?" I asked.
For a woman, he said.
Then he gave me a name. A woman 20 years younger. For a moment the world tilted. Not just money. A mistress. I gripped the counter to keep my balance. Miles continued gently. "These charges go back at least 3 years. 3 years. All the nights he said he was working late. All the trips he claimed were business only. All the sudden excuses. Every puzzle piece now snapped together." I swallowed hard. "Thank you, Miles." When I hung up, the house felt colder than winter. I walked through the rooms we had shared, seeing lies in every corner. He didn't only betray our finances. He betrayed our marriage. And that betrayal lit the final spark inside me. Now, I wanted more than truth. I wanted justice. After the shock cooled, I did something he never expected. I acted normal. Perfectly normal. I greeted him with a smile. I asked about his day. I leaned against his shoulder during our shows. Once, I even suggested a weekend getaway, and his whole body relaxed. "See? This is why I love you, Liz. You're steady."
Steady.
If only he knew. Every night, while he watched TV half asleep, Miles continued sending me files, screenshots, transfers, hotel receipts. The truth grew thicker, sharper, impossible for him to deny. I tucked each piece into a folder hidden behind my winter sweaters. Meanwhile, Mark kissed my forehead and thanked me for being so loyal. He thought he was safe because I smiled. But my smile wasn't love.
It was a mask.
And behind that mask, I was building something he could never escape, a perfect wall of proof. A wall that would crush him when the time came. One night, after Mark fell asleep on the couch with the TV still glowing, I quietly slipped into his home office. My hands didn't shake anymore. They moved with purpose. His laptop was open, only locked by a simple password I had known for years. I plugged in a small flash drive I had bought earlier that day. Then I started copying everything. Emails, bank statements, travel records, photos, contracts, screenshots of his secret accounts, even messages to the mistress, sweet little notes he had never written to me. Each file felt like another match added to a growing fire inside me. I checked the hallway to make sure he was still asleep. Then I kept going, dragging whole folders into the flash drive. When it was full, I tucked it into my robe pocket and shut down the laptop. As I walked past him sleeping on the couch, I felt nothing. No sadness. No fear. Only clarity. He had left me long before I started leaving him. The next morning, I met my best friend, Nora, for breakfast. She listened quietly as I laid everything out. The money, the accounts, the mistress, the lies, all of it. When I finished, she didn't gasp or speak right away. She just stared at me like she was seeing a new version of someone she'd known for 20 years. Finally, she said, "Liz, if you confront him now, he'll hide everything again. Men like Mark always think they're smarter." I sipped my tea. "I know. You can't warn him," she continued. "You need time. You need a plan. If he thinks you're angry, he'll disappear the money." A slow smile spread across my face. Who said I'd confront him? Nora froze for a second, then burst out laughing. "Oh my God, you're serious." "I'm very serious," I said. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Then get him, Liz. Get every last piece he tried to hide." I nodded. That was exactly my plan. Over the next few days, I made quiet moves. First, I froze our joint credit cards. Not fully, just enough to stop him from opening new lines or moving money fast. Then I opened my own private account at a different bank, one he never used. I transferred small amounts from my paycheck, nothing big, nothing obvious. Next, I redirected all automatic payments into my new account. The mortgage, the utilities, even my phone bill. Mark didn't notice a thing. He never paid attention to bills unless it helped him feel powerful. One evening, he even waved his card proudly and said, "See? Everything's fine, Liz. I've got us covered." Inside, I almost laughed. He thought control kept him safe. But real safety came from preparation. I watched him pour himself a drink, confident and clueless. By the time he realized the shift, everything would already belong to me or be protected from him. He had built his secret world. Now I was quietly building mine. A few weeks later, something wonderful happened. Something Mark never expected. I got a promotion at work. A big one. My boss called me into his office and said, "Liz, you're dependable, smart, and steady. We'd like you to step into the CFO role." My breath caught. CFO. A salary big enough to free my future. When I told Mark that night, he chuckled and kissed my forehead. "That's cute, honey. I'm proud of you." Cute. Not impressive. Not important. Just cute like a hobby or a pet trick. But I smiled anyway. "Thank you, Mark. It means a lot." Inside, I knew he was completely unaware of what the promotion truly meant. It meant independence. It meant power. It meant I didn't need a single dollar of his hidden fortune to survive. But he would still pay for lying. Now I had the freedom to leave on my own terms and the resources to make sure he never saw it coming. Our anniversary dinner came in early spring. Mark loved fancy gestures, so he took me to an expensive restaurant downtown. He handed me a velvet box with a little grin. For my beautiful wife. Inside was a diamond necklace, sparkling, heavy, far too pricey for our normal budget. I smiled and kissed his cheek. It's lovely. Then, when he looked away, I checked the receipt tucked into the box. Purchased from the secret account. Of course. He used the money he hid from me to impress me. The irony tasted sharp and sweet. I fastened the necklace around my neck, feeling its cold weight settle against my skin like a promise. Across the table, he lifted his glass. Here's to us, Liz. 32 years strong.
Strong.
If only he knew. I raised my glass and smiled kindly. But inside, I whispered to myself soon. The game was almost ready to turn. And when it did, he would lose everything he tried to hide. Months passed, and I played the part of the loving wife perfectly. I cooked his favorite meals, asked about his day, and even laughed at his old jokes. Mark relaxed completely, believing everything was back to normal. But each night, after he fell asleep, I studied files, checked statements, and added more proof to my folder. My lawyer worked quietly, preparing every document without alerting him. Patience is your strongest weapon, she said. And I believed her. Some days, pretending felt strange.
Other days, easy.
Years of marriage had trained me well. Mark walked around the house humming, proud of himself. He had no idea his secrets sat in my nightstand drawer, guarded like treasure. He thought he was winning. But every lie he told became another piece of rope. Every sweet kiss became another knot. And when the moment came, that rope would tighten around everything he tried to hide. I kept smiling. He kept believing. And my plan kept growing stronger. The turning point came on a Sunday morning. I was scrolling on my phone when I saw a picture, a beach photo posted by a young woman I didn't recognize at first. Then I remembered the name from the bank records. Mark's mistress. She posed by the ocean, smiling, with a drink in her hand. At the bottom of the post was a location tag, exactly matching one of Mark's ATM withdrawals from the secret account. He hadn't even tried to hide it well. For a moment, my chest tightened, not from pain, but from something sharper. Confirmation. Real proof. I saved the post, every detail. Later that day, Mark said he was meeting a client. I nodded, making his lunch, like always. As he kissed my cheek, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. He thought he was playing a smart game. But his mistress had just handed me the missing puzzle piece with a bright little smile. Now the picture was complete. Miles called that evening, excitement in his voice. Liz, I found something big. I sat down slowly. How big? One of the hidden accounts was opened using your social security number. My jaw tightened. He used my identity?
Yes.
That's identity fraud. Very serious. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the weight of it settle. This wasn't just betrayal. It was illegal. Miles continued. This gives you enormous leverage. Courts don't play with this, especially when a spouse misuses the other's information. I opened my eyes again. Document everything. Already done, he said. I hung up and stared at the wall. 32 years of marriage, and he had trusted me so little that he stole my identity to protect his secret world. But he also made the biggest mistake of his life, because now the law would step into the fight on my side. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I simply felt ready. I decided it was time to make my own moves. I opened a quiet savings account under my name alone and began transferring small amounts from the house budget. Nothing suspicious. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to build a cushion he wouldn't notice. Mark noticed many things, but never the right things. He believed I was bad with money, a line he had used for years. So when I made small mistakes, he thought nothing of it. One day he chuckled and said, Liz, you really shouldn't manage numbers. Leave that to me. I smiled softly. You're right. Let him believe he was smarter. Let him believe I was careless. The more he underestimated me, the easier it became to move everything into place. Meanwhile, every dollar I tucked away felt like a step toward freedom. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't panicking. I was preparing for a future shaped by me, not by his lies. And he was helping without knowing it. By early summer, everything was ready. My lawyer had all the documents, every account number, every transfer, every receipt. The identity fraud. The mistress. the hidden fortune. All neatly organized. All legally powerful. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror one morning, studying my reflection. I looked older than when this started, tired, maybe, but stronger too. My eyes no longer held confusion. Only certainty. I whispered, "You'll never see it coming." Because he wouldn't. Mark still believed he was in control. He still walked around the house holding his secret life like a trophy. He still kissed me goodbye each morning, thinking I was the woman he could fool forever. But the game was almost over. Soon, the truth would not just arrive, it would strike. And every step he had taken to protect himself would turn into a weapon in my hands. I smoothed my hair, breathed deeply, and smiled. It was almost time. I planned the confrontation carefully. I cooked his favorite dinner: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, warm bread. The house smelled cozy and safe, exactly how he liked it. He came home smiling, kissed my cheek, and said, "This looks amazing, Liz." We ate like any other night. He talked. I listened. My heart was steady. After dessert, I stood up, walked to the counter, and picked up the folder I'd been building for months. When I set it in front of him, he frowned. "What's this?" "Open it," I said calmly. He flipped it open, and his face drained of color. Photos of the mistress. Hidden account ledgers. Hotel receipts. Offshore transfers. Screenshots of messages he thought I'd never see. He looked at me, mouth open, eyes wide. "Liz, I can explain." I raised one finger. "Don't speak." "I'm not angry. I'm finished." His breath caught. Mine did not. If you're hooked right now, hit subscribe for more stories where justice finally wins. He tried to speak again, but I held up my hand. "Mark, your words don't matter anymore." He sat frozen, shoulders tight, eyes darting across every page like they might rearrange themselves. I stayed perfectly calm. Anger would have given him power. Silence took it away. He whispered, "Liz, let's talk about this." "No," I said quietly. "Talking is what we did for years. You lied while I listened." The quiet in the room felt heavy, like a door closing between us. He reached for my hand. I pulled it back. "You made choices," I said. "I simply followed the trail." He swallowed hard. "What do you want?" I closed the folder. "You'll find out tomorrow." He stared at me, confused and frightened, emotions I had carried alone for years. Now they belonged to him. I stood, walked upstairs, and left him sitting there with the pieces of his double life spread across the table like broken glass. The next morning, before he even woke up, a courier arrived at the house. I signed for the envelope and placed it neatly beside his coffee mug. Then I sat in the living room and waited. He came down humming, half asleep, until he saw the envelope. The humming died. "What is this?" "Open it." His fingers trembled as he pulled out the papers. Divorce documents. Filed under financial deception and fraud, supported by every piece of evidence my lawyer prepared. He looked at me in shock. You already filed?" "Yes." "My lawyer hasn't." I cut him off. "Your lawyer called. He's aware." He sounded worried. Mark's face crumpled. He flipped through the pages, seeing the legal weight pressing against him. "You blindsided me," he whispered. I stood and smoothed my sweater. "No, Mark. You blindsided yourself." I just turned the lights on. His world had begun to fall apart. And this time, I wasn't the one begging for answers. By noon, everything spun out of his control. Because he had used my social security number to open one of the hidden accounts, the court ordered an emergency freeze on all his assets. Every account, every investment, even the secret offshore deposit. Locked. And since I was the victim of identity fraud, the court granted me temporary full access to our joint holdings for protection. Mark stormed through the house, shouting into his phone. "What do you mean frozen? How long?" "No, I didn't commit fraud. Well, not on purpose." I sipped my tea at the table. He glared at me. "You did this." "No," I said gently. "The law did." He paced, pulling at his hair. "I can't even access my business account." That's what happens, I replied, when you build a life on lies. He sank into a chair, pale and shaken. For 32 years, he held all the financial power. Now, with a single court order, it belonged to me. The mistress felt the blow next. Her pretty life, paid for by Mark's secret fortune, collapsed faster than she could post another beach selfie. That afternoon, Miles called me laughing softly. Liz, her credit cards were linked to one of Mark's frozen accounts. Everything's declining. Flights, store purchases, even her rental car. I pictured her staring at a card machine, confused, then angry, then scared. Good. Let her taste the same shock she helped create. Later, I checked her social media out of curiosity. She had posted a sad quote. Some people change when they get what they want. I almost laughed. She didn't realize her fall had nothing to do with change. It was simply the bill coming due. Mark tried calling her. She blocked him. He stood in our living room, phone shaking in his hand, mumbling, "Everything's falling apart." I walked past him toward the stairs. "No, Mark," I said softly. "Everything is falling exactly where it should." 2 days later, Mark's business world began to crumble. His company accountant called early in the morning, asking urgently, "Mark, did you authorize these withdrawals?" I watched him from the hallway as he stammered into the phone. "What withdrawals? I don't know what you're talking about." But he did know. Every dollar he stole from the company for his secret life was finally showing. By noon, the board held an emergency meeting. They reviewed the irregular transfers, the frozen accounts, and the gaps in his reports. When he returned home, his face was gray. "They suspended me," he whispered, "until they can investigate." I folded laundry calmly. "That sounds fair." He stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Maybe he didn't. He had built his business on secrets, and secrets were heavy. Eventually, they crushed the person holding them. Now the company he loved more than our marriage was slipping out of his hands because of his own greed. And I didn't lift a single finger to stop it. The next strike came from the press. I sent anonymous emails, carefully written, carefully timed, to 3 local reporters known for exposing financial scandals. Subject line: Local businessman hides millions offshore during marriage. Within hours, the story spread online. The article included details about secret accounts, false statements, and possible misuse of marital funds. I never mentioned my name. I didn't need to. People connected the dots fast. By evening, Mark's face appeared on news websites. Neighbors whispered. Employees texted. His phone buzzed nonstop. He stood in the kitchen, clutching his head, mumbling, "This can't be happening. Who would leak this?" I poured myself a cup of tea. "Bad choices have loud echoes," I said quietly. He didn't respond. He just sank into a chair, looking small. For decades, he cared about one thing most, his reputation. Now it was turning to dust right in front of him. And the best part? He still didn't know the real storm was coming next. A week later, we were back in court for a financial hearing. My lawyer presented every document, account statements, identity fraud proof, transaction lists. Then she revealed something Mark had forgotten. Our mansion was bought using my inheritance money. The judge's eyebrows rose. Mrs. Dawson provided the full down payment. "Yes, Your Honor," my lawyer said, sliding forward the paperwork. Mark tried to argue. It was a joint purchase. The judge cut him off. "Not according to these records. This property belongs to Mrs. Dawson unless contrary evidence appears." He had none. I stood still, hands folded, as the court awarded the entire house to me alone. Mark looked like the floor had dropped beneath him. "Where am I supposed to go?" he whispered. I didn't answer. It wasn't my job to comfort him anymore. By the next morning, he packed a few bags and left. He had bought a future without me. Now he could finally live in it alone. One afternoon after court, I drove to a small office downtown. Inside was a charity I had quietly supported for years, a financial literacy foundation for women. I met with the director and handed her a check made from funds recovered from the seized offshore account. She blinked in surprise. "Mrs. Dawson, this is incredibly generous. Are you sure?" I smiled.
Yes.
And please list it under my maiden name. Using his secret money to help women learn how to protect their own felt like justice. Real justice. Not loud. Not messy.
Precise.
The kind that leaves a mark no one forgets. As I walked out of the building, sunlight hit my face. I felt lighter than I had in years. Mark hid money to escape responsibility. But now that same money was helping women escape the traps he once built for me. It was the sweetest kind of revenge, using his lies to lift someone else higher. The final legal blow came faster than even I expected. In court, Mark was found guilty of financial concealment, identity fraud, and marital deception. My lawyer presented everything, the emails, the receipts, the forged account forms. The judge spoke firmly. Given the severity of these actions, Mrs. Dawson will receive 70% of the marital assets. 70%. More than he ever imagined losing. Mark stared at me with red eyes. You planned this, he whispered, voice cracking. I looked straight at him. Every penny. He dropped his gaze, defeated. After decades of controlling the money, he finally understood the power I had gained by knowing the truth. When the judge ended the session, people in the courtroom watched me, not him. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply stood tall, knowing the war was over and I had won. But there were still more lessons for him to learn, and life was ready to deliver them. The downfall hit him from an unexpected place, his mistress. With Mark broke, exposed, and desperate, she vanished for a few weeks. Then suddenly, tabloids released a story. Younger woman speaks out. Secret life with local businessman. She had sold him out for cash. There were photos of them together, screenshots of messages, even hotel details. She told reporters he promised her a future, then lied about everything. I almost laughed. She was tasting her own medicine, and he was swallowing every bitter drop. Mark called me that night, voice shaking. Liz, please, they're twisting it. You know I'm not. I know exactly what you are, I answered.
Click.
His name became a joke online. Articles calling him the man who had millions and lost it all. For someone who spent his life building an image, losing it publicly was the worst punishment. He wanted fame. He got infamy. And none of it came from me lifting a finger. Sometimes life finishes what we start. While his world fell apart, mine rose higher. My promotion to CFO became official, and the news spread quickly in the company. People congratulated me in the halls. Someone even left flowers on my desk. A local business magazine interviewed me for a feature about strong women in leadership. The headline the next month read, Woman outsmarts cheating husband and builds her own future. They didn't mention his name, but everyone knew.
And it didn't matter.
This story wasn't about him anymore.
It was about me.
I felt proud standing in my new office, sunlight warming the walls. I had climbed through fire, betrayal, lies, heartbreak, and somehow come out stronger. Mark once said I didn't understand money. Now I was in charge of millions. And for the first time in my life, every dollar connected to my name belonged to me, not to a man who lied, hid, or controlled it. My independence wasn't just financial. It was emotional, and it felt like freedom. A few weeks later, I attended a charity gala, the same organization I had donated to using Mark's frozen funds. The hall sparkled with lights, women in gowns, men in dark suits. I wore a simple navy dress and the diamond necklace Mark had bought with his secret account. Every step I took felt like victory. People whispered as I walked by, not in pity, but in admiration. Some knew my story. Others only knew I had overcome something big. The director welcomed me warmly. Your gift changed lives, she said. I smiled. That was the goal. Standing there, surrounded by people who respected me for my strength, not my marriage, I realized how far I had come. The necklace glittered against my skin, a reminder of everything I turned in my favor. Mark bought it to impress me. I wore it as a symbol that he no longer controlled a thing. Not my money, not my choices, not my life. When I stepped onto the stage to give my speech, the room quieted. I wasn't nervous. Not anymore. I had survived too much to fear a microphone. I looked out at the faces, women who wanted courage, men who respected strength, people who believed in rebuilding. I began. For many years, I thought money was power. My husband believed that too. But I learned something different. The room leaned in. Power comes from knowing your worth, even when someone else tries to hide it from you. A few gasps. Then silence. I continued. When I discovered lies in my marriage, I thought my world was falling apart. But really, it was falling into place. I didn't lose anything. I found myself. When I finished, the audience rose to its feet. A standing ovation. Not for revenge. Not for anger. But for strength. In that moment, I realized my life had shifted completely. I wasn't the betrayed wife anymore. I was the woman who walked through fire and kept shining. A month later, the final image of Mark's downfall appeared online. A blurry photo captured him outside a cheap motel, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, holding a newspaper with my gala speech on the front page. The caption read, "The man who lost everything." I stared at it for a long time. Not with joy. Not with pain. With closure. He had chosen this path. Every lie, every secret account, every kiss with another woman. Each step led him here. He had mocked my worries, dismissed my questions, used my identity, tried to replace me. And now he sat alone on a curb, drinking from a paper bottle, watching my success from the outside. The world he built for himself had collapsed. The world I rebuilt for myself had opened wide. I felt no guilt, no anger, just peace. For the first time in decades, I was not carrying his weight. He was carrying his own. And it was heavier than anything he left on my shoulders. A week after the photo of Mark hit the news, he sent me an email. The subject line read, "You ruined me." I sat at my desk, the city lights glowing outside my window. I opened the message slowly. His words spilled across the screen. Blame, anger, fear. He wrote that he lost his job, his friends, his money, and even his future. He said I had destroyed everything he worked for. I read it twice, calm as ever. Then I typed back one simple line. "No, you funded me." I hit send and closed my laptop. There was nothing left to discuss. He used lies to build a secret life. I used the truth to build a better one. And now the story was finished. Not with yelling, not with tears, but with a sentence that reminded him that every step of his downfall came from his own hand. My reply wasn't meant to hurt him. It was meant to end him. And it did. With the divorce behind me, I finally began building something new, my own business. A consultancy I named My Terms. It focused on teaching women financial independence, asset protection, and early warning signs of financial abuse. Women from all over the state reached out. Some shared their fears. Some shared their confusion. Some shared stories too similar to mine. I listened. I guided. I taught them what I wish someone had taught me 20 years earlier. Soon, workshops filled fast. Companies invited me to speak. Even banks asked me to help design programs for women starting over. Every time I stood in front of a group, I felt strong. Mark once told me I wasn't built for business. But here I was, running one, shaping one, helping others build theirs. My Terms wasn't just a name. It was a promise. A promise to myself and to every woman who ever felt small in her own home. This time, I wasn't following anyone else's path. I was making my own. 3 months into running my consultancy, I received a small envelope with no return name. Inside was a handwritten note. "Thank you for your program." I joined anonymously. I learned more in 2 weeks than I did in 2 years with him. I'm leaving. I'm finally free. At the bottom was a name I hadn't expected, Mark's former mistress. I sat back, letting the moment settle. She hadn't written excuses or apologies. Just gratitude. I realized then that her part in my story no longer mattered. She had been trapped in his lies too, just in another way. I folded the note and placed it gently into my drawer, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Healing doesn't always arrive from the places we expect. Some women fall into the same traps. Some women climb out. And some women become better, not bitter. That note closed the last emotional door I didn't know was still open. The circle was complete. The shadows were gone. Only light remained. One bright morning, I walked into the bank that once sent me the email that changed my life. The same quiet lobby. The same marble floor. I told the clerk I wanted to close the last account still tied to Mark's name. When she handed me the final balance statement, I felt something warm spread through my chest, not joy, not anger, but full peace. Every dollar left in that account was being transferred to my financial literacy foundation. Money he hid. Money he lied about. Money he tried to keep for a future without me. Now it was helping women build futures, without men like him. I signed the final papers, thanked the clerk, and walked out into the sunshine. The door closed behind me with a soft click, the sweetest sound in the world. It meant the last tie to his secrets was gone. I had walked into that bank years ago as a confused wife. Now I walked out as a woman who owned her story completely. On the 6-month anniversary of my new life, I sat at my desk preparing a large donation check for the foundation. The room was quiet, warm, peaceful. I opened my drawer and pulled out the old pen, the one that had been tucked inside the first secret bank envelope. The pen he used to hide his fortune. Now I used it to give money away. Life has a strange sense of humor. I signed my name slowly, proudly. As the ink dried, I whispered, he hid his fortune thinking it would save him. It just made me rich enough to leave. I placed the check in an envelope and stepped outside. The sun touched my face, soft and bright, and the world felt open again. No fear. No lies. No limits. Only forward. I walked down the steps with steady steps and a clear heart, knowing one truth stronger than any other. He took 32 years from me. But I used his secrets to build the rest of my life. On my terms. If you love this revenge story and want more just like it, make sure you're subscribed. There are plenty more to tell.